Picture a kid at the dinner table. The food's on the plate, the TV's on, everyone's present, technically. Nobody's yelling, nobody's hitting anyone, and yet, if you ask that kid 20 years later what they remember most about growing up, they might say, I don't really remember anyone asking me how I was doing. Not I was hit, not I was starved, just nobody looked. And that's the strange, quiet cruelty of neglect. It doesn't leave bruises you can point to, so most of us don't even file it under hard childhood. We assume trauma has to be loud. The psychological reality is that some of the deepest wounds are the ones caused by absence, not action. Here's what makes neglect so tricky to talk about. It's defined by what didn't happen. Abuse is a moment you can name. Neglect is 1,000 moments that simply weren't there. The comfort that never came, the question that was never asked, the eyes that never quite landed on you. Developmental psychologists have a term for what a child actually needs in order to grow up feeling secure: attachment. Not just food and shelter, but a consistent, attentive presence that says in 1,000 small ways, I see you and you matter. When that presence is missing, the child's nervous system doesn't get the message, you're safe. It gets a different message entirely, you're on your own. Now, here's the part that surprises people. A neglected child doesn't usually think, I was neglected. They grow up thinking, I'm just really independent, or I don't really need much from people. Because when you're small and nobody's meeting your needs, you can't exactly stage a protest. You adapt. You shrink the need instead of shrinking the neglect. There's research on this going back to Harry Harlow's old unsettling experiments with infant monkeys. The ones raised without a warm, responsive presence didn't just struggle emotionally, they showed lasting difficulty, even attempting closeness later on. The absence didn't just hurt in the moment, it rewired the blueprint for what connection was even supposed to feel like. Think about a kid who learned young that crying didn't bring anyone running. Maybe the parents were exhausted or checked out or dealing with their own storms. Not cruel, just unavailable. That kid stops crying eventually, not because they feel better, but because they learn crying doesn't work. Psychologists sometimes call this learned helplessness's quieter cousin. Not nothing I do matters, but nobody's coming, so I might as well handle it myself. And here's the cruel irony. From the outside, that kid looks fine, mature even. Teachers love them. They're the ones who never cause trouble, who seem oddly capable for their age. Nobody realizes that capability was built out of necessity, not choice. Fast forward, and that same person is now an adult who struggles to ask for help even when they're drowning, who feels a strange, almost unbearable discomfort when someone tries to take care of them, who says, I'm fine, so automatically it doesn't even register as a lie anymore. If you've ever wondered why some people seem allergic to being comforted, this is often where it starts. Not because they don't want love, but because somewhere along the way, needing love got associated with disappointment. It's easier to need nothing than to need something and watch it not arrive again. There's a metaphor I find useful here. Think of a plant that grew up getting just enough water to survive, but never quite enough to thrive. It doesn't die, it grows, but it grows differently. Roots stretching further than they should have to, leaves smaller, more careful, more braced for drought even when the rain finally comes. That's what emotional neglect does. It doesn't stop growth, it reshapes it around scarcity. And the tricky part is, once you're an adult standing in an actual rainstorm of love and support, some old root system is still bracing for dry ground, still hesitant to open up and actually drink it in. The good news, and there is good news, is that the nervous system is more flexible than we used to believe. Attachment researchers now talk about something called earned security, the idea that people who didn't get consistent care in childhood can still build secure, trusting relationships later through repeated experiences of someone actually showing up again and again until the old wiring starts to loosen its grip. It's slower than we'd like. It's not one conversation or one really good therapy session. It's closer to that plant finally cautiously letting its roots relax because the rain keeps coming back. So if any of this feels familiar, if you've spent your life being the strong one, the low-maintenance one, the one who never asks for anything, I don't want you to hear this as a verdict on your childhood or your parents. Most neglect isn't malicious. It's often just exhausted people passing down what they themselves never received. What I want you to hear instead is this: your independence isn't a character flaw, and it isn't something to be ashamed of. It was a survival skill, built by a kid who deserved more softness than they got. And the fact that you're even sitting here thinking about this, examining it instead of just repeating it, that's the beginning of rewriting it. If this hit closer to home than you expected, sit with that for a second. You're allowed to. And if you want more of these quiet, honest looks into the psychology shaping who we've become, stay close, because there's a lot more worth understanding.